Welcome to everybody for this Bylaw and Policy Committee meeting. Welcome to councillors, CEO, managers and the press. I will call for apologies. Do we have any apologies?
From Liz McMillan.
I'll move it be accepted.
All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Carried. Are there any items of extraordinary business? No one speaking, so there are no items. Any declarations of interest? We can put that one aside too. Right, minutes of the Bylaw and Policy Committee meeting of the meeting held on Thursday the 4th of February 2020. I will move that these be accepted as a true and correct record. Would anyone like to second that? Thank you, Roger. All those, is there any discussion? I will therefore put it to the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. Reports. The first report is a bylaw and policy review update. Rachel, would you like to make some comments on this, please?
Through the chair, I don't have anything to add beyond what's in the report, but I'm happy to take questions. However,
Richard?
I think Richard...
Just two minor updates on the update. The reference in clause 2 to this agenda, including an update on property leases and licences, that is on the audit, risk and finance agenda this afternoon, not on this agenda. And the clause 6, where I talked about the director of the Ashburton Art Gallery coming along on the 26th of March. She's not available on that date, so I've penciled her in for the next activity briefing, which would be the 7th of May.
Thank you. Yes, I did notice that property leases and licensing policy was in this afternoon's agenda. So we'll therefore move on to the main agenda item, being the sensitive expenditure policy.
If I may, could I please move that Council receives the Bylaw and Policy Review Report?
All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Thank you, Mr. Mackay. Sensitive expenditure policy. Rachel or Tony or both?
Thank you. Through the chair. So the policy is based on guidance from the Officer of the Auditor General. There are several changes proposed to the actual structure of the policy. However, the content appears pretty much unchanged. The most significant change proposed is to raise the accommodation expenditure limit from $190 per night to $200. However, there are often times where expenditure may exceed that $200 limit, but there are approvals within the policy, we call it one-up approval, to cover off these instances. So in the majority of circumstances, expenditure does fall within that $190 to $200 amount per night, and it is up to the person booking the accommodation to ensure that they adhere to the principles in the policy. I'm happy to take questions.
Okay, I'll start. I note on current situation number 3, we've got the policy should be read alongside external procurement policy, etc., etc., etc. Are we bringing this policy up to date with the other internal policies, or is it the other way around? I know that we have passed the elected members' allowances and reimbursement policy. To me, it's a bit of a chicken and egg situation.
Through the chair, I think it's constantly a chicken and egg situation with council policy with changes coming in. The procurement policy having only been recently reviewed, this policy is now in line with that, as well as the elected members' allowances policy. Some of the other policies referred to are internal documents, and they are people and capability policies. So when they're reviewed, we'll ensure that this policy aligns with those as well.
Do any members have any questions? Mr Mackay?
Oh, this is a slightly tongue-in-cheek one at 6.1.1. Individuals must use a council vehicle for council business if one is available. After yesterday, do we need to add if it's also working?
Can you please
Oh,
explain?
Some of us tried to use a council vehicle to go to Christchurch yesterday, but we never got very far.
Retire?
No, monument. And the other one is, I'm just checking up on the English in it, is 6.1.5. The vehicle owner must ensure that they have appropriate insurance cover for the vehicle while being used on council business. I presume that is the private owner of the car, or does the driver have to check that council's actually got the insurance if the council owns the car? I read it several times and I come back to it last night and I thought, which vehicle is it?
It is a bit confusing. Tony?
Thank you, through the chair. So the intention is that is for the use of the private vehicle. It is, the subheading there is 6.1 is the use of private vehicles, but we can make that clearer in 6.1.5 if that's necessary.
If you're relaxed, I'm relaxed. Just to
Yes,
read it, or
carry
whatever.
on.
If you think we should change it, we can change it.
Which clause are you actually looking at?
6.1.5. Oh, 24.
I mean, if you look at it, under 6.1, it's got use of private vehicles, which
Okay,
is
we'll leave
sort
it
of
as
heading for the whole thing. And then 6.1.5, the vehicle owner, which then carries back to the use of private vehicles.
Yeah. Well, actually, what got me was 6.1.1, where it actually talks about the council vehicle for business. Is in the same, under the same heading. Quite happy to leave it, but I just needed guidance on it.
Well, basically, I think the first part of that clause is council will not normally pay for travel by private vehicle.
Okay, we'll leave it. Yep.
Any other questions? Just on credit cards, how many council credit cards are there? Just offhand?
There are credit cards and recently purchase cards as well. Credit cards are issued to group managers, and I believe that there are 3 or 4 positions that have the purchase cards as well, and they're all detailed in the delegations manual.
Thank you.
Just for completeness, Mr Chair, I also have a credit card, as does the Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Mackay?
5.5, tipping, if I may. I totally agree with 5.5.1, tipping with the retailer will not be reimbursed, because I think tipping's a personal thing. I'm questioning whether we should even allow it on international travel, including the United States. I just struggle with tipping, the concept of it, and I've even been in a business where I've been asked to receive them and I've actually said no. Maybe it's just a personal thing, but where I'm coming from is, should a hard-working ratepayer actually pay for someone to be tipped? I'm quite happy for full and actual cost, but someone just giving away money leaves me a bit cold.
Mr Mayor?
Having been in America when we used to be able to travel, you have no choice when you're in a restaurant in America. It is added on. So it's called tipping, but it's a range of percentage there. and it's pretty much compulsory, really. It's pretty close to it. So I think it's suitable the way it is. In some circumstances, it would be required and expected for services.
Well, the other thing now, it's increasing in Europe, is rather than tipping, they now add a service charge to the end of the bill type of thing. And presumably it's your choice whether you pay it or not. I remember one night in northern Italy we got chased out of a restaurant because we didn't pay the service charge. He was not happy. Any comment? Questions? Right, would someone like to move that the council adopts the revised sensitive expenditure policy with the next review scheduled for 2025? Councillor Mackay,
So moved, Mr Chairman.
seconded. Thank you. Councillor Latham, any further discussion? I will now put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. And thank you for putting together a good paper. I thought it was well written and most questions were answered before we'd even ask them. Thank you. With that, there are no further agenda items, so we can all resume what we were doing before.